Hey there, deep divers. Buckle up, because today we're ditching that old take, make, waste routine.
Yeah.
We're diving headfirst into the world of the circular economy. It's all about sustainability, resourcefulness, and giving our planet a well-deserved high five.
It really is a fascinating concept, a complete departure from that traditional linear economy we're used to. So instead of constantly extracting resources, using them, and then just tossing them aside, imagine a closed loop where resources are kept in circulation for as long as
A
possible.
close loop. I like the sound of that. So
Mm.
we're ditching the whole linear economy thing. What's the big idea behind circular, and why should we be stoked about it?
Well, it's about shifting our mindset from a take, make, waste approach to a system where waste is designed outright from the very beginning. Products are built to last longer, be easily repaired, and ultimately be broken down and reused in new products.
So instead of my old phone ending up in a landfill, its parts get a stylish reincarnation in a new device.
Exactly.
I'm all for tech reincarnation.
And it's not just limited to electronics. Imagine clothing designed for disassembly, so the materials can be easily recycled. Or furniture created with modular components that can be easily repaired or upgraded. This circular approach can really be applied to, well, virtually every industry, transforming how we produce, consume, and dispose of things.
Fewer landfills, less strain on our planet's resources. It's starting to sound like a win-win for everyone. But before we get too starry-eyed, are there any downsides? I mean, any challenges that we need to consider?
Of course. Like any major shift, there are challenges in implementation. But the beauty of the circular economy is that it's not just good for the environment, it makes economic sense too.
Okay, now you're talking my language.
Hmm,
Convince me how being eco-friendly translates into dollars and cents.
think about it. Reusing and recycling materials is significantly cheaper than constantly extracting new resources. It's like choosing to refill a water bottle instead of buying a new one every time you're thirsty.
Okay, that's a money-saving analogy I can get behind.
And here's the really exciting part. It opens up a whole world of new business opportunities in areas like repair, refurbishment, and recycling. So we're talking about new jobs, innovative industries, and a greener economy overall.
So we're talking new jobs, less waste, and a healthier planet. Sign me up.
Mm.
But let's get back to those implementation challenges that you mentioned. What are the biggest roadblocks to making this circular dream a reality?
One of the primary hurdles is shifting mindsets. We need both consumers and companies to embrace this new way of thinking about products and consumption.
I mean, going beyond just tossing our soda cans in the recycling bin, what kind of mindset shift are we talking about?
Exactly. For consumers, it's about prioritizing durable, repairable products and being mindful of disposal. Instead of buying the cheapest option, what if we invested in well-made items that are designed to last and be easily fixed? It's about valuing quality and longevity.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about the companies making these products? It sounds like they have a huge role to play in making circularity a reality.
Absolutely. For companies, it means designing for circularity from the get-go. Think products with easily replaceable parts, using recycled materials, and offering take-back programs so they can manage the product's end of life responsibly.
So it's about designing products with the entire life cycle in mind, from sourcing materials to end-of-life management.
Precisely. It's a significant shift from the traditional linear approach, but it's a necessary one if we want to create a truly sustainable future.
It sounds like a pretty big ask, especially for companies used to doing things a certain way. Are there any large-scale efforts out there trying to nudge things in the right direction?
Absolutely. We're seeing promising initiatives popping up all over the globe. The European Union, for example, is leading the charge with ambitious goals and regulations to promote circular practices. They've implemented things like eco-design directives that push for more durable and recyclable products.
So it's not just wishful thinking, there are concrete actions being taken. That's encouraging.
Yeah.
What about other parts of the world? Any standout examples?
Definitely. China, for instance, has been making significant strides with its circular economy promotion law. They're incentivizing businesses to adopt circular practices and even establishing eco-industrial parks where one company's waste becomes another's resource. It's a fascinating example of industrial symbiosis in action.
That's incredible. It sounds like a real-life example of that closed loop we were talking about earlier. It's inspiring to see these kinds of initiatives gaining traction.
It truly is. And it's not just limited to these big players. We're also seeing a surge in local initiatives, especially in Latin America, focused on things like community composting programs, repair cafes where people can learn to fix their own belongings, and innovative recycling initiatives tailored to their local context.
It seems like the circular economy is more than just a trendy concept. It's a global movement gaining serious momentum. So how does this all translate to the average person? If someone's listening to this and thinking, okay, I'm on board, how do I get involved?
hmm
What advice would you give them?
That's a great question. As consumers, we have a surprising amount of power in influencing the shift towards a circular economy. The first step is becoming a more conscious consumer. Think about the lifespan of a product before you buy it. Is it built to last? Can it be repaired?
So opting for quality over quantity whenever possible. I like it. What about when a product does reach the end of its life? I know recycling is important, but are there other options we should be considering?
Absolutely. Recycling is fantastic, but it's also worth exploring options like donating or reselling items that still have some life left in them. Online platforms have made it easier than ever to give pre-loved items a new home, and when it comes to those items we no longer need, disposing of them responsibly is crucial.
It sounds like there's a lot we can do as individuals to embrace a more circular lifestyle. But so much of this seems to be about changing our relationship with stuff, right? It's
Yeah.
about embracing the idea of shared ownership. Speaking of which, I've heard whispers about new business models popping up that are specifically designed with the circular economy in mind. Can you tell us more about those?
You're right. The circular economy is really revolutionizing traditional business models. One fascinating concept is product as a service.
Now that sounds intriguing. What exactly does that entail? I'm all ears.
It's a model where instead of buying a product outright, you're essentially paying for its use. For example, imagine subscribing to a washing machine service instead of buying the machine itself.
Interesting. So you'd pay a fee and have access to a washing machine, and the company would be responsible for maintenance, repairs, and eventually even taking it back. That sounds incredibly convenient.
Exactly. It incentivizes companies to design durable products and keeps them responsible for the product's entire life cycle. It's a win-win for consumers and the environment. And it's not just limited to appliances. We're seeing this model pop up in various industries, from clothing rental services to furniture subscriptions. It's all about shifting from ownership to access.
I love the sound of that. Are there any other innovative models out there shaking things up?
Absolutely. Remanufacturing and recycling are getting a serious upgrade. We're not just talking about crushing cans anymore. Companies are finding incredibly innovative ways to extract valuable materials from old electronics, furniture, and even clothing to create high-quality new products.
Talk about giving those materials a second life. This whole circular economy thing is really making me rethink my relationship with stuff. It's eye-opening to see how much potential there is to create a more sustainable and prosperous future. It seems like technology would play a huge role in making these processes more efficient and effective.
You're absolutely right. Technology is a game changer in the circular economy. Think about digitalization and big data.
Okay, I'm picturing robots sorting through mountains of recyclables with laser-like precision. Am I on the right track?
Sort of. While robots are definitely part of the equation, we're talking about using sensors and data to track materials throughout their entire life cycle, optimizing resource use and making the entire system much smarter and more efficient. It's about working smarter, not harder.
That makes a lot of sense. Any other tech innovations we should have on our radar? What's got you excited about the future of the circular economy?
One area that's particularly fascinating is 3D printing.
Ooh.
Imagine on-demand manufacturing where products are created only when needed, drastically reducing waste and allowing for customized products that last longer. It's a whole new level of efficiency and personalization.
Whoa, material passports. You're blowing my mind here. How would that actually work?
Imagine a world where every product comes with a digital passport that contains detailed information about its materials, its origins, and how it can be disassembled and recycled.
So we could literally trace a product's journey from start to finish and verify that sustainable practices were upheld every step of the way. That kind of transparency feels incredibly important, especially in today's world where consumers are demanding more ethical and sustainable practices.
Exactly. It's about building trust and accountability within the system, making sure that companies are held responsible for their environmental impact. Precisely. It would empower consumers to make informed choices, incentivize companies to really design for circularity, and revolutionize the way we manage resources on a global scale.
Now that's a vision for a more sustainable future. It's a reminder that the circular economy isn't just about small tweaks here and there. It's about fundamentally rethinking the way our world works.
It's about shifting from a linear to a circular mindset, embracing innovation, and working together to create a more prosperous and sustainable future for, well, for everyone.
It's about closing those loops wherever we can. We've talked a lot about the big picture stuff, global initiatives, innovative business models. But what about those of us who are just starting to dip our toes into this whole circular economy thing? What are some simple but impactful steps we can take in our daily lives?
You're absolutely right. It can feel overwhelming to think about changing our entire lifestyles overnight. The good news is it doesn't have to be an all or nothing approach.
I'm all ears. Give me those small steps, those baby steps towards a more circular life.
Start with simple things. Think about your consumption habits. Before you click that buy now button, ask yourself, do I really need to own this? Or could I borrow, rent, or lease it instead?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'll admit I've been guilty of buying something, using it once, and then letting it gather dust on a shelf. Renting or borrowing makes so much more sense in those situations.
Exactly. Another powerful step is to support local businesses that are embracing circular practices. Look for restaurants using compostable takeout containers, clothing stores offering repair services, or furniture makers utilizing reclaimed wood. By supporting these businesses, you're not only reducing your environmental impact, but you're also fostering a more sustainable local economy.
So it's about being mindful of our purchases and actively seeking out sustainable alternatives, even if it means sometimes going the extra mile or spending a little more. It's about putting our money where our values are, right?
Absolutely. And don't underestimate the power of raising awareness. Talk to your friends and family about the circular economy. Share articles on social media and let your voice be heard. The more people understand and support these initiatives, the faster we can drive real change.
Spreading the circular gospel. I'm into it. Now, I'm curious to dive into some specific examples of the circular economy in action. Let's start with the fashion industry. It's no secret that fast fashion has a major impact on the environment. What are some bright spots emerging in this sector? Are there any brands or initiatives that are truly walking the circular walk?
There's a growing movement within the fashion industry to embrace circularity, and it's exciting to see. One trend that's gaining traction is clothing rental services, especially for those special occasion outfits that, well, you might only wear once or twice.
I've seen those popping up. It's like having a subscription to a never-ending closet without the guilt of contributing to textile waste. That's brilliant.
It really is a fantastic solution, especially for those statement pieces that you might not want to wear on repeat. Another positive shift is the increasing number of brands promoting their use of recycled materials. We're seeing everything from recycled plastic bottles being transformed into stylish sneakers to discarded fishing nets finding a new life as swimwear.
It's great to see brands jumping on the recycled materials bandwagon. But I'll admit, I'm always a little skeptical. How can we be sure these claims are legit? Is it just clever marketing? Or are they truly making a difference?
You're right to be discerning. While using recycled materials is definitely a step in the right direction, it reduces the need to extract virgin resources, cuts down on pollution, and lowers energy consumption. It's important to look beyond the labels and, dig a little deeper. Look for transparency in their supply chains, certifications from reputable organizations, and a commitment to circularity that extends beyond just one aspect of their business.
Transparency is key. I imagine traceability is a major challenge in the fashion industry, with its complex global supply chains. How can we be sure that those recycled materials are actually being sourced ethically and sustainably?
You've hit on a crucial point, and it's where technologies like blockchain have the potential to really revolutionize the industry. Imagine a system where every step of a garment's journey from the cotton farm to the factory to the final product is recorded on an immutable ledger.
That's blockchain in action, bringing transparency and accountability to an industry that desperately needs it. It's about knowing where our clothes come from, who made them, and what impact they've had on the planet.
Exactly. And it's not just about tracing materials. It's about ensuring fair labor practices, safe working conditions, and responsible sourcing throughout the entire supply chain.
It's about making sure our clothes are ethically made from start to finish. That's a fashion statement I can get behind. Now, let's switch gears from couture to computers and talk about another tech-heavy industry, electronics. With new gadgets coming out all the time, electronic waste, or e-waste, is a growing concern. How can the circular economy help us tackle this mounting challenge?
It's all about extending the lifespan of electronic devices and ensuring those valuable materials stay in circulation. Many companies are now offering repair and refurbishment services, which is a fantastic way to give your gadgets a new lease on life instead of automatically upgrading to the latest and greatest model.
I'm all for giving my gadgets a second life. I'll admit I'm guilty of the old phone in a drawer syndrome. When you upgrade to a new phone, but you keep the old one just in case, but then that just in case never comes and it ends up gathering dust.
I think we're all guilty of that, but it highlights a crucial point. We're often so quick to toss things aside when they could have a whole second, third, or even fourth life with a little TLC or some creative repurposing.
It all comes back to that mindset shift we were talking about earlier, moving away from a culture of disposability and embracing the value of durability, repair, and reuse.
Absolutely. And when it's finally time to say goodbye to your device, when it's truly reached the end of its useful life, make sure you recycle it responsibly. There are e-waste recycling programs popping up everywhere, making it easier than ever to ensure those valuable materials are recovered and reused instead of ending up in a landfill.
Out with the old, in with the refurbished or responsibly recycled. It makes you wonder why we're so quick to toss things aside when they could have a whole second or third life.
Hmm.
And it's not just about electronics, is it? This whole idea of extending the lifespan of products and embracing shared ownership, it seems like it could apply to so many areas of our lives.
You're absolutely right. It's about changing our relationship with stuff, moving away from this idea that we need to own everything, and embracing models like sharing platforms and subscription services.
From fashion to tech gadgets, it seems like the circular economy is offering innovative solutions across a wide range of industries. What about sectors like agriculture? How can we apply these principles to something as fundamental as food production?
Agriculture is a fascinating example because, in many ways, it's where circularity has been practiced for centuries. Think about composting, for example. It's a simple but incredibly effective way to return organic waste back to the earth, enriching the soil and reducing the need for chemical fertilizers.
It's about working with nature, not against it. And speaking of working with nature, I've been hearing a lot about regenerative agriculture practices gaining popularity. What exactly does that involve, and how does it tie into the circular economy?
Regenerative agriculture is a holistic approach to farming that aims to not only produce food, but also to improve the health of the ecosystem as a whole. It's like taking a page from nature's playbook and applying those principles to the way we grow our food. It involves things like minimizing soil disturbance by opting for no-till farming methods, using cover crops to prevent erosion and enrich the soil, and integrating livestock into the system to graze on cover crops and fertilize the land naturally.
So it's about seeing the farm as a living, breathing organism and working in harmony with its natural cycles instead of disrupting them.
Exactly. By adopting these circular practices, farmers can improve soil health, conserve water, reduce their reliance on synthetic pesticides and fertilizers, and even sequester carbon from the atmosphere, effectively turning their farms into carbon sinks. It's a win-win for both the environment and the farmers themselves.
That's what I love about the circular economy. It's all about finding those win-win solutions where what's good for the planet is also good for business, for communities, and for the economy as a whole. It's about understanding that everything is interconnected.
It is. From the clothes we wear to the food we eat, the way we design our cities, the way we manage our waste. The circular economy offers a roadmap toward a more sustainable, equitable, and regenerative future. But it's not just about these specific industries or sectors, is it? It feels like the principles of circularity can be applied to pretty much every aspect of our lives.
You're absolutely right. It's about fundamentally rethinking the way we design, produce, consume, and dispose of things, closing those loops wherever we can.
Exactly. And the more we can embrace these principles in our homes, in our businesses, in our communities, and in our governments, the closer we get to creating a world where waste is minimized, resources are valued, and the environment is protected for generations to come.
It's a vision worth striving for. Now, with all this talk about innovation, I'm curious, with all the technological advancements happening, are there any specific developments you're particularly excited about in the realm of the circular economy? What does the future hold for this movement? What gets you fired up?
There's so much happening right now, it's hard to pick just one. But one area I'm incredibly excited about is the rise of bio-based materials.
Bio-based materials. Tell me more. I'm picturing like some futuristic sci-fi stuff.
It does sound futuristic, but it's closer than you might think. We're talking about materials made from renewable resources like plants, algae, or even fungi.
Whoa.
These bio-based materials have the potential to replace traditional plastics and other petroleum-based products, offering a more sustainable and biodegradable alternative.
Wow. So instead of relying on fossil fuels to create the materials we use every day, we're tapping into the power of nature. That sounds incredibly promising. What are some examples of these bio-based materials in action?
We're already seeing some amazing applications. There are companies creating packaging materials from mushrooms, furniture made from mycelium, which is essentially the root structure of fungi, and even textiles and clothing created from biofabricated materials like spider silk or lab-grown leather.
Those innovations sound straight out of a science fiction novel. It's inspiring to see how far we've come and the incredible potential that lies ahead. But with any major shift, there are bound to be challenges, roadblocks along the way. What are some of the biggest hurdles we still need to overcome to fully realize the potential of the circular economy? Where does the work still need to be done?
You're absolutely right. It's not all smooth sailing. One of the primary challenges is scaling these solutions and making them economically viable on a larger scale.
Mhm.
It's one thing to have innovative ideas and pilot projects, but it's quite another to implement them across entire industries and supply chains.
It's about bridging that gap between innovation and widespread adoption. How do we take these brilliant ideas and make them the norm, not the exception?
Exactly. It requires collaboration, investment, and supportive policies to incentivize businesses to make the shift towards circularity. We need governments, industries, and consumers to work together to create a system that supports and rewards sustainable practices.
It's a team effort. We all have a role to play in making this happen. Are there any other obstacles standing in the way of a truly circular future?
One challenge we haven't touched on yet is the issue of consumer behavior. Even with the most sustainable products and systems in place, if consumers aren't on board, the circular economy won't reach its full potential.
So even if we have all the right technology and infrastructure in place, it still comes down to changing mindsets and behaviors. We need to move away from that, buy it new, use it for a little while, and toss it out mentality.
Exactly. We need to move away from a culture of disposability and embrace the value of durability, repair, and reuse. It's about changing our relationship with stuff and becoming more conscious consumers.
It's about buying less, but buying better. It's about thinking about the entire life cycle of a product before we bring it into our lives. It's about supporting companies that align with our values. It's about asking questions, doing our research, and being mindful of the choices we make every single day.
You got it. It's about making informed choices that benefit both our wallets and the planet.
Speaking of informed choices, with so much information out there, it can be tough to know where to start. What advice would you give to our listeners who want to become more conscious consumers but feel overwhelmed by all the options? What's a good starting point?
Don't try to do everything at once. Start small. Choose one area of your life, whether it's fashion, food, or technology, and focus on making more sustainable choices within that realm. Once you've got a handle on one area, you can move on to another. It's about making gradual but meaningful changes over time.
So instead of trying to overhaul our entire lives overnight, we should focus on making those small, sustainable swaps that are easy to stick with.
Baby steps, right?
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Reach out to companies, do your research, read labels, and learn about the story behind the products you're buying. The more informed we are as consumers, the better equipped we are to make a difference. Knowledge is power. The more we know, the better choices we can make. Now, we've talked a lot about the challenges and the areas where we still need to improve, but before we wrap up, I'd love to end on a positive note. What are some of the most inspiring examples you've come across of the circular economy in action? What gives you hope for the future?
One thing that never ceases to amaze me is the power of human ingenuity and the incredible innovations emerging in this space. We've talked about some of them already, like bio-based materials, 3D printing, and blockchain technology. But what's really inspiring is seeing these innovations being implemented in communities around the world.
Like those bio-based materials you mentioned earlier, are there companies out there actually using mushroom packaging or mycelium furniture?
There are. And it's not just limited to products. We're seeing incredible advancements in areas like waste management, with cities implementing innovative composting programs and waste-to-energy facilities that are turning trash into a valuable resource. We're seeing advancements in renewable energy, with solar panels and wind turbines popping up everywhere, reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. And we're even seeing the principles of circularity being applied to urban planning, with cities designing for walkability, implementing green infrastructure like green roofs and urban farms, farms and creating closed-loop systems for water and energy.
Cities as living, breathing examples of the circular economy in action. That's an inspiring thought. It's about creating systems that work in harmony with nature, not against it.
It truly is. And it's not just happening in major metropolitan areas. We're seeing communities of all sizes embracing these principles, proving that sustainability and circularity are possible at every scale.
It's about thinking globally, but acting locally. It's about realizing that we don't have to wait for governments or big corporations to solve these problems.
Hmm.
We can start making a difference right here, right now, in our own backyards.
Exactly. Every effort, no matter how small, can have a ripple effect.
It all adds up. It's about those small, everyday choices we make that collectively create a more sustainable future.
By working together, we can create a future where our economy thrives, our communities are resilient, and our planet is protected for generations to come.
It's a future worth striving for sure. Now, for our listeners who are eager to dive deeper into this topic and learn more, what are some resources you'd recommend? Are there any books, websites, or organizations that you find particularly insightful? I'm ready to add to my reading list.
Absolutely. For a fascinating deep dive into the history and principles of the circular economy, I highly recommend the book Cradle to Cradle: Remaking the Way We Make Things by Michael Braungart and William McDonough. It's a classic in the field and a must-read for anyone interested in sustainable design and the future of manufacturing.
Cradle to Cradle. I've heard great things about it. It's about reimagining design and production, right?
Exactly. It challenges the traditional cradle-to-grave approach to manufacturing, where products are designed for eventual disposal, and proposes a cradle-to-cradle model, where products are designed for continuous cycles of use and reuse.
That's a game changer. Designing products with the end in mind from the very beginning.
Another excellent resource is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation's website. They're a real driving force behind the circular economy movement, and their website is a treasure trove of information with reports, case studies, and insights into the latest circular economy developments across various industries.
The Ellen MacArthur Foundation, they're doing some incredible work. We'll be sure to include links to both of those resources in our show notes for anyone who wants to explore further.
Fantastic. The more people who are informed and engaged, the better.
Now, before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to leave our listeners with? Any final thoughts or words of wisdom? What's the key takeaway you hope people walk away with?
The transition to a circular economy is not a quick fix, but an ongoing journey. It requires a collective effort, a willingness to challenge the status quo, and a belief in the power of innovation and collaboration.
It's about embracing the idea that we can create a better future, a future where our economy works in harmony with the planet and its resources.
Precisely. It's a future worth striving for, and I believe that together we can make it a reality.
It truly is, and it's being driven by this powerful combination of factors.
Yeah.
Growing consumer demand for more sustainable options, technological advancements that are making circularity more feasible and affordable, and a new generation of entrepreneurs and innovators who are passionate about creating a better world.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what gives me so much hope, seeing this groundswell of support for a more sustainable future. It's not just on the shoulders of governments or big corporations to solve this. It's a collective effort. Every single one of us has a role to play in this transition.
Absolutely. Every decision we make, from the products we buy to the way we dispose of them, can contribute to a more circular future. And don't underestimate the power of sharing your knowledge. Talk to your friends, family, colleagues about the circular economy. Spread the word on social media. The more people who understand these concepts, the more momentum we build toward lasting change.
Spreading that circular gospel, I'm all for it. Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into the world of the circular economy, we'll take a moment to reflect on what we've learned. For someone who's just starting to wrap their head around this whole concept, what are some key takeaways you'd want them to walk away with?
The biggest takeaway is that the circular economy is not just a nice to have. It's essential for a sustainable future. It's about moving away from that outdated take-make-waste model, and embracing a more regenerative approach, one that mimics nature's cycles of growth, decay, and renewal.
It's about changing our mindset from seeing waste as a problem to seeing it as a resource, a valuable asset that we can reuse, repurpose, and reimagine. It's about designing for durability, repairability, and recyclability from the very beginning.
Exactly. And remember, this isn't just about environmental benefits. It's about creating a more resilient and equitable economy, one that generates new jobs, reduces our reliance on finite resources, and fosters innovation and creativity.
It's a win-win for people, planet, and profit. Now, as we wrap up this episode, I always like to leave our listeners with something to ponder, a thought-provoking question to spark further exploration. So here's one for you. If you could wave a magic wand and implement one circular economy solution on a global scale, what would it be and why?
That's a tough one. There are so many incredible solutions out there, but if I had to choose just one, I think it would be to make product longevity the norm. Imagine a world where products are designed and manufactured to last for generations, where repairability is prioritized, and where consumers value durability and timeless design over fleeting trends.
That's a fantastic vision, a world where products are built to last, where we're not constantly bombarded with messages to upgrade to the latest model, where things are made to be repaired and cherished, passed down from one generation to the next. It's about shifting from a culture of disposability to a culture of longevity and appreciation for well-made, durable goods.
Precisely. It would require a systemic shift in how we design, manufacture, consume, and value products, but I believe it's a shift worth striving for. It would not only dramatically reduce our environmental impact, but also lead to a more fulfilling and sustainable way of life.
Beautifully said. It's a powerful reminder that the circular economy isn't just about tweaking a few things here and there. It's about fundamentally rethinking our relationship with the things we produce, consume, and value. It's about creating a world where sustainability is no longer a niche concern, but the very foundation of a thriving and equitable future.
Absolutely. And the most inspiring thing is that this future is within reach. The solutions are out there. The momentum is building. It's up to all of us to embrace these ideas, to support businesses and organizations that are leading the way, and to make conscious choices in our own lives that contribute to a more circular and sustainable world.
I couldn't agree more. A huge thank you to our expert for joining us today and for sharing such incredible insights and inspiration. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the circular economy.
Yeah.
Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep those circular loops spinning.
It's been my pleasure. Remember, every step we take toward a circular economy, no matter how small, is a step toward a brighter future.
Until next time, keep diving deep and stay curious, deep divers.